today we're going to look at SD 47.3a, Asappurisa Sutta 2, or Dutiya Asappurisa Sutta, the second discourse on the false individual, S45.26, Samyutta Nikaya. Now, although the sutta talks about the false individual, of course, the sutta also will talk about the right, or the true individual. So this is a sutta talking about those who don't practice the Dharma and those who practice the Dharma. But this sutta is interesting because it is a kind of riddle. If you are looking at this sutta for the first time, it seems to be a very interesting riddle. So let's look at it. This translation is on page 40. In summary, the Buddha is asking, the Buddha is telling us, he says, there is what is called a false person, someone who doesn't practice. And yet there is someone who is more false than this false person. And that's the first riddle. The second riddle, there is the true individual. But there is another person who is even more true than the true individual. So throughout the suttas you find this kind of arrangements, this kind of riddles, which make studying the suttas very interesting. And these are different ways of approaching the Buddha's teaching, and also help us remember the key ideas. In fact, this sutta is really quite simple. It talks, there's only one topic here, it's the Noble Eightfold Path actually. But there's a difference here. The approach is slightly different. You might even say unique, because here there is mention of the Eightfold Path, and there is also mention of what's called the 10 rightness, Dasa Sammata. Now we know the word for right in what they call this, the Eightfold Path. For example, right thought, right view, right thought, and so on. The word right is Samma. Samma. Samma is very close to the Latin prefix summa. Okay, but from summa you get the word summit, summary, and so on. So samma here, or samyak in Sanskrit, refers to a sense of fullness, completeness, rightness. So this is the complete practice, the right practice. This is the Eightfold Path, in other words. So there are, of course, 8 factors. Right? We have right view, samaditi, and then we have right thought or right intention, samma sankappa. We have right speech, samma vacha, right action, samma kammanta, right livelihood, samma ajiva, right effort, samma vayama, and then right mindfulness, samasati, and then right concentration, samadhi. Okay? So these are the 8 limbs of the path. So what's interesting here is these are the path that we walk. Another way of looking at the path is to look at it as the threefold training. Training to practice the precepts. That is, to practice right speech, right action, right livelihood. Right, this is to cultivate our body. Body here refers to our 5 senses: eye, nose, tongue, and body, or actions or speech. The purpose here is not only to keep our body calm and peaceful and healthy, so that we can interact socially, we become happy and wholesome members of society. We create a kind of a good society. But also, this moral virtue also serves as the basis for something even more important: mental training. Mental training. So we can say moral virtue, the first training, teaches us to be good members of a group, of a family, of society, of a country, of the world, if you like. Whereas the second training, the mind training, the training in samadhi, mental concentration, refers to an individual training, becoming your true self, discovering your mind. And in discovering your mind and inner peace, you work towards wisdom. This wisdom is the third training. But before I go to wisdom, then the second training on mental cultivation comprises Sama Sati, right mindfulness, and Sama Samadhi. So all these 5 limbs or factors, 6 rather, 2, 4, 6, yeah? Right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. These are the basis for wisdom, or right wisdom, if you like. Right view and right intention, or right thoughts. So in other words, this is the understanding that helps us to see beyond ourselves, to see the world as it really is. But even though we are going through these 3 trainings, we have not reached the goal yet. There are 2 more limbs. So this is where you see in the sutta, for example, in section 5, there are 10 limbs. Number 9 is called, here, section 5 is the negative one. Look at section 7, it's the positive one. In section 7, number 9 has right wisdom. Rather than right knowledge, is right wisdom. This is on page 41, right? So there is right wisdom, Sama Jnana. Sama Jnana, in Sanskrit, Jnana. Jnana here means spiritual knowledge. It's another term for awakening knowledge, if you like. There are many words for knowledge in the Indian vocabularies, but even in Pali. And number 10 is right freedom, Sama Vimutti. Okay, so this is awakening. Okay, this is Arhathood, Buddhahood, if you like. So these 10, they comprise the Eightfold Path plus 2 more limbs. And those last 2 are the ones that refer to awakening. There is right wisdom and right freedom. Freedom, no more creating karma, no more future suffering, no more rebirth. In other words, some past karma may come back to fruit, but they don't trouble the awakened person, the Arhat. So there you are, you have the Eightfold Path and the 10 rightness. So let's see how all this fit into this sutta. Let's look at the sutta. Beginning on page 40, the second discourse on the false individual, S45.26. Originating in Savatthi, that the Blessed One said, Bhikshus, I will teach or show you the false person and the one more false than the false person. I will show you the true individual and the one more true than the true individual. Listen to it, right? So you have 2 pairs of people, right? So notice how the Buddha attracts the attention of the audience, right? By beginning with a thesis, a very interesting topic. That is a very short sutta. Now I'm talking about this sutta and it's going to take about half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour. But imagine, I'm sure the Buddha didn't just teach this. There are lots of other extra things the Buddha will be teaching. But the redactors, the ancient editors, those early monks who put this stuff together, they have to transcribe all these teachings in such a way that it can be remembered. The essence can be remembered. Why? Because we want it to be handed down through generations, through centuries and millennia, and that's exactly what happened. So those ancient arahats, those monks were really wise, the Buddha was really wise in introducing this oral tradition, this method of compiling the suttas, the Buddha's teaching, and reciting them and teaching them, so that they're still available to us today after 2,500 or 600 years. So this alone is quite amazing that these wonderful teachings are still with us. And we should treasure these teachings because they are still valid, they are still efficacious, they help us in our meditation, they help us to live happy lives. Right, so having said that, the Buddha continues. Okay, so the first part. And what bhikshu is a false person? Asappurisa. Asappurisa is the true individual. Sappurisa, in Sanskrit, Sappurusha. Sat here can mean true, good. Okay, Purusha is a person. Of course, here, although Purusha usually, the Purisa usually refers to a man, here we can take it as kind of unisex, if you like, refers to people generally. Whereas the A in front here means not true individual, false individual. Sometimes the word Kapurisa is used, okay, which means false individual, someone not true to himself, not true to others. So who is this false person? The Buddha continues and says, here bhikshus, a certain person holds wrong view, has wrong thought or wrong intention, speaks wrong speech, does wrong action, engages in wrong livelihood, makes wrong effort, has wrong mindfulness, has wrong samadhi, wrong concentration, if you like. So these are the ignoble, eightfold path, the wrong path, in other words. Notice here, you have 8 right things. That means there are also 8 wrong things which are to be avoided. So this is another interesting point about the limbs of the Eightfold Path. There are the right ones and the wrong ones, so we must be careful to avoid the wrong ones, the wrong path, in other words. So this is the false individual. He follows the wrong path. He follows the wrong moral training, the wrong mental training, the wrong wisdom. Now what is this? What is the wrong moral training? Well, maybe this person, he thinks he follows rules, but he just follows rules by way of a ritual, but just as an external show of piety. And he does a lot of prayers and so on, but internally it's not changed, so that he doesn't really become a better person. And he does no meditation, not the kind that calms his mind. Maybe he does some kind of prayers to some kind of holy beings, but outside of that, this person still maybe unfriendly or greedy or having some kind of negative quality, so it's not a true person. And in fact, his mind is never really at peace. So this is why you notice certain kinds of religion, certain kinds of spiritual practices can be very noisy, and they're very uncomfortable to many of us. Here it is said that the scientists have done some experiment with some mice. You know, mice are very simple animals in the sense that they're not as intelligent as human beings. They're always very nervous, trying to survive. The scientists put these mice into a very quiet place for a few hours, and they found that those mice that spend some quiet time actually learn to be more intelligent than those mice that were normal, so to speak. So in other words, inner peace, this practice of solitary meditation and so on, learning to be at peace with ourselves helps a lot in cultivating our minds. Now we may wonder, if you look at world civilization as a whole, you find that most of our great philosophies come from the West. Of course, the interesting thing is our religions all come from the East. How is it that deep philosophy can arise in the West but not in the East? I think one reason is that the East tends to be very noisy. Our lives, our work, we seem to enjoy noise. Now, it's not that the West doesn't enjoy noise, it's noisy too, but they have this love and discipline for solitude and peace. And this is also found in Indian teachings, the Buddha's teaching, the love of solitude, patisavana, there are a number of words for this, viveka, and so on. So in other words, when we learn to love peace and practice peacefulness and spend time in peaceful solitary practice, whether meditating or reading the suttas or reading some beautiful literature, you find this is not only healing to our mind, but also it grows, it helps us grow as an individual. We create beauty, we understand the truth of life much better. Great literature, great arts are created in this way. This ability to be alone and silent. And you can see the image for the Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree as the epitome of this kind of wonderful human aloneness that is the source of great creativity, discovery, and progress that makes us truly human. And from there, we even move on to divine levels and to spiritual liberation itself, spiritual solitude. Right? So, the true individual practices this spiritual solitude. Now, so this is the first part, okay? The Buddha says, here is this person, the fourth individual, he practices the wrong path. Then next the Buddha continues, section 5. And what bhikshus is one more false than a false person? The Pali is Asappurisena Asappurisa Tara. Tara means more, okay? One who is more false than a false person. Okay, here notice the four parts is given there. Same, this person holds wrong views, has wrong thought, speaks wrong speech, does wrong action, engages in wrong livelihood, has wrong mindfulness, has wrong samadhi, and there's two more. Okay? Has wrong wisdom or wrong knowledge and wrong freedom. 9 and 10 makes this person more false than the false person. This one bhikshu is called one who is more false than a false person. And why is that so? Now in the case of the false person, he is still practicing this wrong path, but he has not come to any conclusion. Whereas this person who is more false than this false person, you might say he's this guru, if you like, okay? Who feels that, oh, I'm enlightened, I know this, and this is the right way, right? And you find in the Buddha's time, there were 6 such teachers. They're called the 6 heterodox teachers or sectarian teachers. And they have a wide range of views. The Buddha's time was a very interesting time in the intellectual history, not only of India, but of the whole world. It was a time when people were kind of rich in their thinking, all kinds of philosophies. One of the sectarian teachers said, we know our body is nothing but made out of atoms, all these atoms and molecules assembled together. So if you cut this person with a sword and into two, you're doing nothing but separating the atoms. Can you imagine how terrifying such a thought is? But it's an amazing idea anyway. And then there are others. Another one at the other extreme, he is a sort of a skeptic, if you like. So he doesn't want to get into trouble, he doesn't want to argue with anybody, he doesn't want to lose any argument. So he says, well, if you ask me any question, if I can answer it, I would think about it and I would find an answer. If it is right, I will say so. If it is wrong, I will say so. But these are hard to know and so on. And when he goes right around and people say, wow, this teacher is very wise, like I understand a word he's saying. And this is a very popular saying among the Indian religious people. When you cannot understand the guru, they say, oh, this guru is very profound, I can understand him. Okay? So this is an example of a teacher who is more false than the false practitioner. because he thinks he has found the answer. That's the problem. Okay, so that's the unhappy part. Now is the happy part, the true individual. Section 6. And what Bhikshu is a true individual, Asappurisa. Here Bhikshu, a certain person, holds right view, has right thought. Right? So here is the wisdom section of training. And speaks right speech, does right action, engages in right livelihood. This is the moral virtue aspect. Makes right effort, has right mindfulness, has right samadhi or stillness. This is the meditation aspect. So here he practices the Eightfold Path, the three trainings correctly. This one Bhikshu is called a true individual. Alright? So this is the practitioner, not awakened is practicing. So in a sense, if we try hard to the precepts, calm our minds, we can say to the extent we are a true individual, if you like. It's not a label we wear for all the time, but when we are practicing, at that moment, if we're doing it rightly, we can say we are a true individual. When we are angry, we are not a true individual. We're not even a Buddhist. When we are jealous or greedy or confused, we're not Buddhist. So we've got to keep our minds calm and clear. So to be a Buddhist is not a label. To be a Buddhist is a practice. It's a dynamic situation. We try our best to be a Buddhist as much of our day as possible, as much of our waking life as possible. Maybe even when we are sleeping, we want to sleep as a Buddhist. Sleep happily, happy dreams, and so on. Then in the last part, the Buddha continues to finish off it, the sutta. And what Bhikshus is one more true than a true individual. Sappurisena Asappurisa Sutta. Here Bhikshus, a certain person holds right view. Notice right view is the first. Right view is number one because in the Eightfold Path, all the other seven must have right view, must be based on right view. Because if any of these seven following factors does not have right view, it is wrong. It cannot be right thought. So right thought must also have right view. Okay. And then number three is right action. Right action also must be based on right view. And then this person who is more true than the true individual engages in right livelihood, makes right effort, has right mindfulness, has right samadhi. Then number 9, he has right wisdom, samanyana. And finally, he has right freedom, right awakening, if you like. Of course, awakening is always right, so that's why the word just never uses is right freedom, vimutti. Right, sama vimutti means bodhi, awakening, arahathood. This one Bhikshu is called one who is more true than the true individual. So who is this person? This person, of course, is the Buddha, the Arahat, the awakened. The Buddha and the Arahat, the awakening, are both the same. It's just like the fire of greed, hate and delusion has been blown out, extinguished, doesn't come back. So there's no difference between the blowing out of a candle, a big flame. It's the same. The fire goes out. It never comes back. Okay? So both the Buddha and the Arahat are awakened in the same way. The only difference between the Buddha and the Arahat is that the Buddha is the discoverer of the path, and the others, the Arahats, are the followers. This is found in the teaching called Asappurisa Sutta. So it's very important to remember that the Buddha is already awakened. He doesn't need to do any more awakening. The Arahat also is awakened. He doesn't need to become a Buddha. You find some later teachers and gurus, they lost touch of the sutta. They started thinking that the Arahats need to awaken further to become Buddhas. There's nowhere in the suttas did the Buddha teach this. This is a wrong view which we must correct immediately, and do not teach such a wrong view, because we are misrepresenting the Buddha. We teach such things. the awakening of the Buddha and the Arhat are the same. The only difference is that the Buddha discovered the path, the Arhats are the followers. So here we see that the two groups of people. The true individual, of course, is the one who is practicing the three trainings. Stream winner, it includes the stream winner, the once returner, non-returner. And technically, of course, the Arahat to be. Whereas in the category of the one who is more true than the true individual, we're talking about the Arahat, the awakened being, in other words. So the answer is quite simple, but the way the Buddha presents the teaching is so interesting. Right? So there's something worth reflecting on. Now let us close this study with a short reflection. When we practice the Buddha's teaching, we are truly Buddhist. So being a Buddhist is not a label. Being Buddhist is a state of the body and state of mind. In other words, we practice to keep our body healthy in every way. We practice to keep our mind healthy in every way. Healthy body, healthy mind brings about true wisdom. This is what the Eightfold Path is about. Reflecting in this way, it's wonderful good karma. By the power of such good karma, may we be blessed with courage and wisdom to aspire to attain at least stream winning in this life itself. By the same token, by the power of the three jewels and our faith in the Buddha's teaching, let us send out our loving kindness to all those people who have been kind to us, all our loved ones, friends, relatives, that they may be well and happy. And also let us send out our loving kindness to all those who are working to teach the Buddha's teaching, those who are struggling to know it, and to all other people, including those whom the Dhamma have not touched, that they may see the Dhamma, they may practice the Dhamma and feel the peace in this life itself. May wherever we go, we bring peace and happiness to the people around us. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.